Good evening, everyone. Welcome to America's Third Party. We are pretty much following up on another 2 or 3 hours of broadcasting that was abruptly ended because of an attack on our show. So I want to kind of recap things that have happened today and kind of get down to what really is important. And we featured waste today. We talked about Wasteful Wednesday. We talked about how our government is overspending $750 billion a year on the military now with Trump. And I wanted everyone to know that we are so far in debt as a nation, it's beyond belief. And they continue to spend more and more, claiming that the economy is doing great, the Dow is doing great, when in fact they're borrowing more than they ever did to funnel into the economy, to keep it running, stoke the engines. That's not the kind of growth that we expect from our economy. We in the past have dealt with a tremendous amount of production growth in the 50s and 60s of our nation. 70s, 80s, production was still very good, but production has declined the past 10 years, and Americans aren't really getting the jobs they needed. Many people are losing as a result of this outsourcing to foreign countries, and none of that has changed. Yeah. So what we're going to ask is that everyone take a step back and realize, no, this isn't reality. Trump is not painting the real picture. He's pretending like things are going great because he really doesn't want to get charged with impeachment completely, because that's definitely on its way forward. If the Senate does dig up dirt and witnesses do step forward and completely screw up their testimony, like Giuliani, Mick Mulvaney, or in the case of Donald McGahn, if he says what he told the Senate before, that Donald Trump was trying to fire Mueller 5 times, that is a classic sign of obstruction of justice, which would be impeachable. So Donald Trump created a tremendous diversion the other day. Out of the blue, decides to take out one of the top Iranian generals. And that's something I don't think many of us realize is damaging to potential relations with this country. Will we benefit from that? Did we avert a crisis? Was this man trying to build missiles that would have attacked the Iraqi government? Well, based on the response so far from the Iranians, it's highly unlikely that anything's going to happen. So they weren't really posing a big threat to start with. So it's like he pulled this out of a hat, a rabbit out of a hat, in order to create a tremendous diversion. And that's essentially what this is. The big diversion. Yeah, unfortunately. I wish it was something more, but it's not. So we still go back to the impeachment and we're still moving forward. I would have rather our country resolved its problem with Iran and probably pulled back on economic sanctions and said, you know, we want to make a progress. We want progress here. We don't want to go back in time. But Trump is sticking by his standard of renewing economic sanctions, forcing a trade war with China as a result of it, and ultimately having no real clear pathway of non-proliferation. Simply to go threaten the country and pretend like World War III is no biggie. And I even heard Republicans in the room last night talking about how great it would be if we just carpet bombed the entire nation of Iran. Now we've got videos about the Australian fires, possibilities of fakery. We don't know. We'll be looking at that tonight on our late night show. Australian fires, foundation of UN agency Agenda 2030. Alternative views are going to be brought into our show later tonight. You can't see those on YouTube because we can't put them out there without fear of being charged with some sort of a hate speech violation. Whenever we doubt the Agenda 2030 or any kind of traditional view of one particular event and question its authenticity, we are considered by YouTube to be a censored show. So we can't even deliver anything that would in any way result in our being removed from or censored as a result of YouTube claiming we did something wrong. Now, YouTube is going to be getting rid of a lot of YouTube channels that they claim are taking up space. I'm prepared to deal with that. If they do pull my channel for any reason, we've got over 30,000 hours of broadcasting embedded in this channel. And I know for a fact I've been censored for the past 9 years on YouTube. If they pull our channel, so be it. I'm prepared to go with a multiple disc set of all of our shows and upload everything to another server, whatever I have to do. But censorship should not be going on in a country that's dedicated to free speech. Nor should an organization have the right to censor and embed it into their terms of service, like Twitter's doing. They're adding a codicil or some sort of a statement in their terms of service saying it's okay to shadow ban, basically. In no uncertain terms, they say they're going to be able to pull anybody down if they don't want that person expressing themselves. Yet you may think you're tweeting. It's very seriously messed up how they're going against the First Amendment on legal levels right now, and nobody's standing up against it. We don't really know what hate speech is. It's kind of an undefined thing that YouTube is using. As a result, many people are getting pulled down off the internet. Now, there was a statement earlier from @Paul Krugman's site. Yeah, he's having problem with his Twitter account. He claimed his IP was hacked and somebody was downloading porn to his IP, this Paul Krugman guy. I understand he pulled that tweet and he's just dealing with an attack on his Twitter site. I don't know. All I can tell you is Twitter's been shadow banning me for about 9 years, the same as YouTube. So it's just been going on and on. But we'll bring you cutting edge stuff at the end of our show in about 30 minutes. Now, according to the information the NSA gave Donald Trump, they believe that Soleimani was taken out over a plot to kill diplomats and soldiers. Now, they claim they have credible evidence to suggest that, but no one's asking them to present that evidence. After the guy's dead, they don't even ask questions. So we'll never see any evidence that this guy was doing anything other than the fact that our NSA says they had credible evidence. You're not allowed in here, yeah. Yeah, you got a terrible amount of hate speech the other day on Twitter. You were bombarded with hate speech, Anita. Yep. So a lot of times it just goes through the networks. They don't mind. They don't keep people from doing that. And then other times they use it as a reason to get rid of your account, especially if you question the status quo, especially if you question the traditional view the media wants us to take, the controlled talking points, if you will. If you question those things, there's a good chance your account will be shut down. Mia Farrow was commenting today. That's nice. I'm following a few people on Twitter. Mia Farrow is one of them. She doesn't like Trump. So Trump addressed the nation today, and he made a statement that was just not true. Let me encapsulate it for you here.
As long as I'm president of the United States, Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon.
Okay, that's entirely impossible because Barack Obama already allowed Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And they were allowed to have that nuclear weapon before Donald Trump signed or didn't sign the treaty. So that statement is completely false. Obama allowed Iran to have one nuclear weapon based on the treaty that was signed and was in place. So the man is either asleep at the switch or uninformed or has no clue as to what's really happening, but either way, he's wrong. Now that Iran has a nuclear weapon, we now have to look at the inevitability that our president doesn't know that. That's a serious problem when making decisions about the fate of our nation relative to another nation with a nuclear weapon. So no wonder Donald Trump willy-nilly attacked a high-ranking general in Iraq without the permission of the Iraqi government, without any said proof that this man was doing something that I've seen. I've yet to see any proof. He went ahead and attacked that guy, killed him, and 5 other people, and just to make sure that Iran would get the message that you can't send your generals into Iraq and plan anything. But he didn't know that Iran has a nuclear weapon. Yeah, now I'm beginning to see the problem here. We have a president that is unaware of Iran's potential danger to the world around us. No wonder he made such a buffoon-like move as to attack a country with a nuclear weapon. He doesn't think they have a nuclear weapon. It's unreal. We don't allow any support for Elizabeth Warren here. She's a known liar. When she said she was a Cherokee Indian, you're not allowed to support her here, man. We won't allow a known liar who received all that free education, claiming she was a Cherokee Indian, claiming she wins races. No, she's a known liar, and she recently lied about her tenure as a teacher, claiming she was fired because she was pregnant, and that's just not true. So if you're here to support Elizabeth Warren, you've picked the wrong room to hang out. Go back to the Democrat room where they make the stupidest decisions on earth. Thank you. Massive aerosol spraying over California.
Wednesday.
Yeah, we just featured a lot of climate change activity. There is a lot of chemical spraying going on in California, and many people are wondering, well, why would they do that? Well, because they're trying to evaporate the air in California and create a forced drought in Southern California. It's one of the richest areas in the world. The price of houses are practically $1 million a piece in LA. And I want a lot of people to know that weather modification is climate change, in case you were wondering. So why would there be climate change going on? Because they're purposely spraying the skies above us with waste material. They are poisoning the air that we breathe. It's what they do. What is weather modification? Well, you'd have to go to a summit and hang out with really rich people that talk about how they're sticking chemicals in the air that you breathe. And just like when you go down and buy a can of ant roach killer, the poor ants and roaches don't know that you're going to spray the hell out of them. You're kind of like the ant and roaches in this scenario. They meet and talk about how they're going to fix the weather. They do not tell you about it. They hide it from the people, and they go ahead and do it. And then they blame the people for what's happening, climate change factors. They claim that, oh, we've got to do this. We've got to tax everybody for all the carbon that's being released, when carbon itself occupies 0.038% of our atmosphere. Hardly a threat. I believe that. So yeah, it's kind of a revelation to know that they're purposely changing the weather to create a justification for taxing you. Amazing, huh? Okay, back to the real issue at hand, impeachment. You know, I don't think that tweet is worth responding to. It's hate speech. I just ignore hate speech. Yeah, that's not something I would even address. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're beyond Obama too on that one. Abandoned UFO house and creepy time capsule factory. That looks like fun. Thanks, Scissor Fight. Cool. We got that coming up at 10.
All right, guys, welcome back to another adventure. Today, we are at a house we found going towards another location, and it looks pretty cool. It looks like a dome house.
Cool. That'll be fun. A dome house. Yeah, he takes a look at weird things out there that are abandoned. It's fun to look at people looking at abandoned buildings. I was traveling through South Alabama on a video tour the other night, and it was amazing how many abandoned buildings there are in Alabama. Forgotten small towns in southern Alabama. I mean, you take a quick look at this video I was watching. It's just everywhere you go, it's like a ghost town. There's the Alabama state line, and then they go down and they look at all these
even years later.
They got Wells Cash Store, abandoned buildings. He goes down the road and he finds these towns that are just like hardly anybody out there in the middle of Alabama. Everywhere. It's like empty buildings everywhere. It's amazing how many areas of the country really are not populated. Dr. Pepper. Okay. Ilhan Omar laughs and jokes around as her colleague discusses U.S. casualties in Iraq. Wow, watch this. This is troublesome.
Barbara Lee's amendment, but I'm glad to say that I was part of the 132 and also the vote for Barbara Lee's amendment. But I think that the point of that is that is the same war that we're dealing with today. We never solved any problems with AUMF. We left 4,000 plus, maybe 4,400 dead, and over 60,000 who came back injured in some form. And the war never ended. As I recall the language in AUMF, it deals with hostilities in Iraq. It doesn't deal with an incident or a dislike or someone in a car coming in from the airport. That is the danger of not acting. And I do think without leadership, meaning the leadership of CPC, that...
Wow. Now, we just found out last week that Ilhan Omar got money from Qatar to get elected in her home state. Qatar, a country funded a U.S. politician. Apparently this is going on a lot now. She should definitely be called out on the irregular citizenship application she filled out for her brother, claiming he was her husband. All these things would normally put Ilhan Omar under the radar, but Trump hasn't done anything, not a thing, to prosecute this woman. And she openly laughs at losses of life of U.S. personnel. It's a travesty that Donald Trump hasn't done anything to prosecute any of these people, from Hillary to Barack Obama for his birth certificate issue, which is clearly a forged birth certificate document. It amazes me how this world is somehow clicking along with people believing Trump is stopping the deep state when he hasn't done anything. Amazing. Thanks for showing me that troublesome video. Yeah, we've had a lot of strange allegations tonight in the pre-show. Apparently there's a story that Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's madam and sex recruiter for young girls, was allegedly involved with George Clooney. Radar Online has the story. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think these stories are being spun out of control at this point to cover up the truth. Was Jeffrey Epstein is actually still alive. Clearly. He was seen August 30th, 20 days after he died, right here on his own island. You can see he's wearing his light blue shirt that he wore. He likes light blue shirts, like the one he wore with Trump in 1992, just 2 years before Trump allegedly raped a 13-year-old girl, with Jeffrey Epstein in attendance. There's photos of Bill Clinton out there now. It's like we're taking our mind off of the real issues. They're trying to obscure them. Pictures of Bill Clinton popped up with standing next to Ghislaine Maxwell on board Lolita Express. There he is right there standing with her. And a young girl, a masseuse that Epstein had hired. This is just a tragedy to see all of these bizarre allegations not pursued by the FBI. And Trump not even beginning to look into this. Trump has not prosecuted the Clintons, folks. I don't care what you want to believe about QAnon, it's not happening. So a lot of things make no sense right now. If you believe the line that Trump is stopping the deep state, you're a fool. Trump needs to be impeached fully, and I would rather have Pence as our president at this point. And ratty, rusty Econoline pickup. We're going to try to save that from imminent doom. A guy who takes vehicles and works on them and fixes them up and turns waste into something that you would treasure. Musty One has that video. Okay, I'll play that tonight. He's still working on that Econoline, yeah. It shows you all the work that goes into fixing up cars. And frankly, I'd rather watch a video of some guy doing this than actually doing it myself. Because it's like a money pit. Once you get into these cars, it's endless. I refurbished a 1970-ish VW van and turned it into my peace van back in the late 70s, early 80s. And it was fun to work on, but man, it just endless. I think I put 30 pounds of Bondo on that vehicle when I got done with it. I bet they do. Really? So the Donald Trump administration, who said he wasn't going to hire any lobbyists, he just hired a lobbyist for every 14 political appointments made, welcoming a total of 281 lobbyists on board his administration. 4 times more than Obama had in his 6 years in office. It's 6 years into his office. Wow, that's amazing. So Trump is 4 times as many lobbyists on board. And Obama was full of lobbyists too. It's crazy. It's bizarre how these people say they're not going to hire lobbyists, and now Trump has over 281 lobbyists on staff. Unbelievable. And everyone's saying, oh yeah, Donald Trump is stopping the deep state. No, he's not. Many people are wondering whether the footage of a downed aircraft with 177 people on board heading from Tehran to Ukraine is legitimate. This is all the footage we have, and it looks like small fires. It could be the crashed remains of a plane that blew up in the sky. I'm not going to rule it out. The Boeing 737 had more than 170 people on board. And there's no chance of finding any survivors. But you'll notice that there's no real fuselage there. Very strange. But hey, if it happened, I'm very sorry for the tragic loss of those lives. Apparently there were over 60 people from Canada visiting Tehran at the time. I find that really odd that 63 people would be visiting Tehran. Whatever, from Canada. Like, okay, really? I don't know of any U.S. personnel visiting Tehran at any given time. I know John Kerry was there a couple weeks ago. Or was it? No, 4 or 5 days ago, John Kerry went over there. Some people believe that John Kerry's got a side deal with Iran when he cut that trade deal. Obviously giving them $155 billion in cash and credit. Carl, I can't believe you've been in the show this long. You definitely bannable. Yeah. Yeah, you can't come in and trash the show all the time. GM and Ford shocked the world, offering 1,500 temporary auto employees full-time promotions. Well, that's good to know. That's great. So apparently General Motors and Ford made some good moves, and their production is increasing on trucks. Good. Well, GM and Ford both saved their truck division. That's a good thing. They made 930 temporary employees very happy. Permanent full-time employees at 30 of its 52 UAW represented facilities. Good news for the American worker. That's great. Congratulations. All right. Yeah, so this story got a little virality earlier. Paul Krugman said someone was using his IP address to download child pornography. New York Times columnist Paul Krugman tweeted on Wednesday that someone is using his IP address. He's on phone with his computer security service, and as I understand it, someone compromised my IP address, he said, using it to download child pornography. I might just be a random target, he said. Or is Krugman doing what I've seen many perps do, getting in front of a criminal problem and trying to deflect because this makes no sense? No one normal would tweet this. They'd call law enforcement and handle it quietly. That's true. Good point. And it's good to note, too, that he just pulled this tweet. It doesn't exist anymore. So why did he make that statement? Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? It's not how an IP address works. Yeah. And this is really a kind of a wild story. Federal exemption allows U.S. auto dealers to roll back odometers. Can you believe this?
Action News 5's chief investigator, Andy Wise, is live with what he has uncovered. Andy.
I've uncovered a federal law that essentially allows auto dealers and private sellers to roll back odometers. Yeah, that's...
Okay. I'll add that to my YouTube show. It's 2 years old, that link, but that's pretty bizarre, isn't it? You think you're buying a new car and, oh yeah, we drove it around a couple of weeks. Oh, it's good. It's a good car with no mileage on it whatsoever. Yeah, right. You really got to check those car dealers out. I'm telling you, when you buy a car, you're automatically wasting twice the cost of the vehicle. Yeah, your price of that car will go down 50% when you drive it off the lot. Once it's a used car, it's worth 50% less. So you may want to rethink it when you're looking to save money, and and there's nothing worse than wasteful spending, right? You can save a lot of money buying off aftermarket cars. Sometimes you can get a warranty with used car dealers. Believe it or not, there are used car dealers that have their own shops and will honor a warranty, which makes the whole thing make more sense. Pay half the price, get a warranty. So according to this poll by The Hill, Putin and Xi Jinping more trusted than Trump on a worldwide poll. Wow, so Putin and Xi Jinping have engendered more trust from world people because Trump is so out there, destabilizing world visions of what America should be on a daily basis. Okay. Yeah, one person said, John Curdillo said, that in 100% of the child porn cases he came across where the perp claimed somebody planted the CP on their computer, forensics proved them to be lying. I don't know. There are cases of people walking through airports with their tablet, and then right away the tablet's picked up, and then they opened up the tablet and it's got pornography on it, child pornography. You can't tell me that some hacker can't install that stuff on your computer if it's vulnerable. Yeah, they can. They can. In fact, there are ways of hacking computers portably using similar to a fob system. No, I don't need to trust you on that. I've seen people who have had their computers hacked walking around. In fact, there's all kinds of vulnerabilities. Whenever a computer is on the internet or on the Google Android backbone, technically it's an open case. You don't have security. Yeah, you can have your computers hacked. That's my point. So let's not kid ourselves. Don't take your computer on board planes. Don't run around with it open to other people who have access to programs that can mine information on your computer. I was privy to a demonstration from a guy at Cisco who was working part-time at Cisco at the time, but he was kind of a tech geek. And I was at a convention once, and he told me that Cisco had just hired him. Anyway, he opened up a program, and he said, look at this. And he said, it was everybody at the convention that was using their computer and all of their passwords. You could see everything. I'm not going to tell you the name of the program. Many of you know what it is. But There are all kinds of ways of looking at people's personal information on their computers and getting into it and uploading to it. So don't kid yourself. That's really possible. People can be spoofed too. Yeah. To think that you have anonymity on the internet or that you have anonymity in general, you got to go through a lot of hoops to even get that now. It's not a given that you have privacy on the internet anymore. You really do. No, you're wrong. See, we got people who are hackers who are telling me that I'm wrong when I'm right. And two of them just piped in and just started telling me I'm wrong. Ha! You're hackers. Of course you'd claim I'm wrong. What a joke. The hackers are protecting their little bit of knowledge that they know, thinking, oh yeah, sure, we can pull another one up over on the American people. No, you haven't tried at all. So I'm not going to fall for the BS that the elitists put out there with the exploited child Greta Van Thunberg. I don't believe that we should be taxed for the mistakes industrialists have made by polluting this beautiful planet is being polluted by these industrialists, and they want to blame us for it and make us pay the price. So they put this puppet Greta out there.
The money is there if we can save the banks. The money is there if we can save the banks, then we can save the world.
Sure. Yeah, the money's there. If we save the banks, they'll save the world. Oh, sure they will. They're the reason why we're polluted right now. They're the reason why our skies are full of crisscrosses of chemtrails. They're the reason why they're dumping poison on your head and depopulating the population. They don't want us here. They want humanity down to about 500 million people total, not 7.5 billion. Yeah, they don't want people here. So they got puppets out there that'll do their bidding, and whatever they require, they just pay them off, like Trump and Biden.
I can't.
They need somebody to lie. They got paid liars out there who will do it for free.
It's CI director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses
In lying, cheating, and stealing. Yeah. Well, there is security in the future, but bottom line is a lot of people who've had the malicious planting of information on their computers, oftentimes they can't even trace the forensic gateway that they got in. Most of us are running through open ports. Most people don't even realize that their computers are vulnerable. Yeah, later, dude. Most people don't realize their computers are vulnerable in general. You have to get programs to operate just to protect your ports when you're on the internet. You can't expect your computer to be safe. Some of you are paying extra for your antivirus software, giving you premium packages, giving you that protection. In some cases, it's worth, what, $15 a month or whatever you're paying. Well, you got a lot of accounts there, buddy. Well, thanks for giving me their name so I can ban them as soon as I can. There are people who are right now downloading porn illegally. There are. It could be going on in a house. Maybe it's your neighbor who somehow jumped onto your signal because you used some already diverted. Most of our routers have had factory presets put into them, and most of the routers have been exposed through the dark web, and all of our router password information has been exposed to hackers. So if you haven't changed your router from the factory setting, you're vulnerable. That means somebody in your neighborhood could be downloading porn through your router. You wouldn't even know it. I'm not saying they can get on your router password, but if most people are like most people, they just use the router that's factory set. Well, Russia accessed all of that on the dark web. and they put it out there. The Russian hackers did. We know for a fact they've hacked our election. Trump denies it, which is making him impeached right now. It's one of the reasons why he's going to have to be impeached, because he denies that Russia hacked our election when we know they did. But most people are very vulnerable when it comes to what they know about on the online. So Facebook has openly exposed over 370 million accounts, I believe. Facebook openly exposed those. They put a list of the passwords of every private password out there on Facebook, out there on the dark web. Facebook didn't control it. Facebook could have changed the passwords electronically using an algorithm, but they didn't. So Facebook is also complicit in not protecting your privacy. And they want it both ways, too. They want to claim that you're not private when you join Facebook, that somehow you've given up on your privacy. But they want to claim that they can censor anything you do, much like a private corporation can censor anything they do. They want it both ways. They want to claim they're a public utility, yet they have the capability of a private corporation to censor anybody they want. Doesn't make any sense. Those are both legally contradictory. They're legal contradictions. I wouldn't know that. I don't even know who Cream is. Rodney? Yeah, there's this male model that pretends to own iVlog. Is that the guy you're referring to? No, that's just a paid actor. No, he's not. Mark bought iVlog. He bought it for $3.2 million recently. And that's what I've heard. I can't verify it, but that's what I heard. Mark has way more money than you, Rodney. Just use your intelligence, whatever you have left of it that hasn't been burnt out by drugs, and ask yourself, how can a guy who lives with his mom afford a server that reaches hundreds of millions of people every day that he turns away because he bans their VPN? How can a guy do that? He drives a Nissan for show that Donald Trump gave him. He has 3 other cars in his garage, if not more. Oh, yeah. You can't possibly expect him to make money on just VIP accounts. How many VIP accounts do we have in the room? None. How many of them are real on Bond? Hardly any. You just have to ask yourself, how does he make money? Advertising? Come on. Why is he begging for money? Because he's pretending to have no money. That's what he's doing. Anyway, if you haven't figured it out by now, you won't ever figure it out. So that's that for upcoming show. We've got a couple things on the Ukrainian crash we'll get right into from Jeffersonian Girl. Yep, and we will try to feature that story about Alan Dershowitz with the blow-up doll tonight as well. Do a repeat on that one. I did make a copy of it, so we should be able to do it either way. Let me make sure I have a copy in my category. And I do. Good. Excellent. That's what it's all about. Yeah, why did Alan Dershowitz have a blow-up sex doll on his couch in a BBC panorama? That's a good question. So we'll get those right up on the board in just about a minute. In the meantime, thank you for coming into our show, everybody, and hanging out. We encapsulated a few things in this one segment, but hopefully we won't be dealing with any more problems with Iran for a while. That was pretty traumatic for a lot of people yesterday, thinking we were heading into nuclear territory. All because Donald Trump wants to come up with a good diversion to take our mind off the impeachment. So Israel will shoot down rockets with space-age laser sword. For those of you who think that there's no such thing as a directed energy weapon, you may want to rethink that. A laser sword, isn't that interesting? Israel announced an upcoming addition to its aerial defense systems, a laser weapon that the country's defense minister says he will be able to intercept rockets, guided missiles, and other projectiles lobbed at the Jewish state. Israel has been developing laser weapons since the mid-1990s, yet the most promising such weapon, the U.S.-Israeli development Nautilus tactical high-energy laser weapon, was shelved in 2006 in favor of a continued reliance on the Iron Dome missile batteries. But they continued developing research to create the Iron Dome nevertheless. Such a deal. So there you have it, everyone. Israel can defend themselves. We don't have to be called in to help them whenever they want to create a false flag or some event or start a war with Iran. When is America going to separate our foreign policy from the Zionist-led foreign policy that controls our two parties? I'll leave you with that thought. In the meantime, thank you for coming in and listening to...
I can't...
and listening to the endless discussion. Mark offered you a 4-night stay at the Wynn. Should you accept? You see? Johnny Sacco, tell Rodney about all the money Mark has. He'll believe you. No, Zionists are not Jews. Joe Biden is a Zionist. He's not Jewish. Adolf Hitler was a Zionist. He was a Christian Catholic or something. Yeah, Donald Trump is not Jewish. He's a Zionist. Yeah, you got to get your nomenclature working for you there. You can be a Zionist and not be Jewish. There's nothing bad about Jewish people. Zionism is the problem now. It's a new world order. That's what they're pushing. Well, let's be clear. Yeah, I've got some new audio. Just hot off the press. Here it is.